The fluorescent light above Bay 7 had been flickering for 11 years. Ray Kowalski never fixed it. He said the stutter kept him honest, reminded him that everything worth understanding lives in the interruption, in the gap between the on and the off. He was elbow deep in a 1987 Chevy KA5 Blazer transmission when Dr. Elliot Marsh walked through the door in a suit that cost more than Ray's entire tool inventory. Marsh was the kind of man whose confidence entered a room 3 seconds before his body did. He looked around the shop, the stacked engine blocks, the coffee can full of mismatched bolts, the hand-painted sign above the workbench that read if it ain't broke, you ain't looked hard enough. And he smiled the way people smile when they're deciding whether something is a joke. You are the guy they sent me to, Marsh said. It wasn't a question. It was a verdict. Ray didn't look up. Depends on who sent you and what for. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I am the lead systems architect on the Europa lander program. Someone on my team, someone I intend to have a serious conversation with. Gave them your name. He paused, looking at a grease-stained copy of a fluid dynamics textbook pinned open on the workbench with a crescent wrench. You fix cars. I fix things, Ray said. He pulled his arms free, wiped his hands on a red rag, and finally looked at the man. What is broken? Marsh exhaled slowly through his nose. We have a deployment actuator on the lander's drill assembly. It has been failing thermal vacuum testing for 8 months. 6 contractors. 41 engineers. Nobody solved it. He said it like a challenge, like a dare, like he was already composing the follow-up email, explaining why this backwoods consultation had been a waste of 40 minutes. Ray nodded once. Leave me the specs. Marsh set a sealed folder on the workbench without another word and walked back into the Nevada afternoon. The door swung shut. The light kept flickering. Here is what nobody in that JPL conference room knew, what nobody who ever drove past Ray's shop with its hand-lettered sign and its junkyard aesthetic bothered to ask. Ray Kowalski had spent 9 years as a systems engineer at Lockheed before his daughter, Maya, got sick. Before the medical bills dissolved his savings. Before he quietly left a career most people spend decades chasing, relocated to a small town in the high desert, and started fixing what people brought him because he needed flexible hours and a door he could lock when the hospital called. He never talked about it. His shop didn't have a website. He didn't have a LinkedIn. He had a flickering light and a coffee can and a mind that had never, not once, stopped doing what it was built to do. He opened the folder that night at the kitchen table while Maya slept down the hall. She was 17 now, in remission, already accepted to Caltech on a full scholarship. She'd grown up watching her father dismantle the incomprehensible and reassemble it into something obvious. She'd inherited the same stillness, the same way of looking at a problem, like it was a personal introduction. Ray read through the actuator specs in 2 hours. He saw it by midnight. The failure wasn't in the actuator. It was in the assumptions surrounding the actuator specifically, the thermal compensation model the team had built around predicted surface temperatures on Europa's ice shell. They'd borrowed the model from a Mars mission, adjusted it for Jupiter's radiation environment, and called it done. But the model carried a legacy coefficient, a rounding decision made by a junior engineer on a 2009 project that had been passed forward through 4 programs like a quiet inheritance. Nobody examined. Under repeated thermal vacuum cycling, that coefficient introduced a micro-variance in contraction timing. Not enough to flag. Just enough, over 80 cycles, to fatigue the actuator's pivot collar at a frequency that looked like material failure when it was actually resonance accumulation. He wrote it up in 3 pages. No jargon performed for the sake of looking smart. No padding. He drew 2 diagrams by hand, photographed them with his phone, and emailed the file to the address on Marsh's card at 1:17 in the morning. He was back under the blazer by 8. The call came at 10:43. It wasn't Marsh. It was the JPL program director, a woman named Dr. Sandra Osei, whose voice carried the particular quality of someone choosing their words with surgical care, because the alternative is saying something they'll spend weeks living down. Mr. Kowalski, we've had our senior thermal team reviewing your analysis since 6 this morning. A pause. You found it. Ray set down his ratchet. The collar geometry needs about a 4-degree redesign to detune the resonance frequency. You'll also want to audit that legacy coefficient across your other subsystem models. It has been traveling a while. Another pause. Longer this time. We'd like to bring you on as a consulting systems analyst for the remainder of the program. Formally compensated, she cleared her throat. I understand Dr. Marsh's initial visit may have been. He was having a bad day, Ray said. She laughed, once surprised. We'd still like to make it right. My daughter's first semester at Caltech starts in August, Ray said. I'll be available in September. He hung up and went back to the transmission. When Maya came home from her afternoon shift at the library, she found her father at the workbench, the flickering light doing its usual thing, a cup of coffee going cold beside a legal pad covered in his tight, precise handwriting. She read the top line, Europa Lander, actuator resonance solution, and looked at him. He shrugged. They had a thing. She sat down on the stool she'd occupied since she was 4 years old, pulled the legal pad toward her, and started reading. Halfway down the first page, she smiled, not with surprise, but with the deep, unhurried recognition of someone who has known a truth for a very long time and is simply watching the world catch up. The light above Bay 7 kept flickering. Ray didn't fix it. Some gaps, he always said, are worth keeping.